Thank you for tuning in to
Uncommon Women.
I'm Shanera.
I'm Kate.
And I'm Jenny Lee.
So today we're actually going to be focusing on loneliness.
So ladies, do you allow people to really see you? Do these people know what you really need when you guys talk? You can have people in your life and still feel disconnected.
That's true. So loneliness is basically a state of mind. It causes people to feel empty, alone, and unwanted. They often crave people connections, but their state of mind makes it difficult to actually form connections with other people. It's a feeling of being alone and isolated.
Okay, I have some studies. It's a twin study found evidence that genetics account for approximately half of the measurable differences in loneliness among adults, which was familiar to the heritability estimates found previously in children. These genes operate in a familiar manner in males and females. The study found no common environmental contributions to adult loneliness. Research has shown that loneliness is prevalent throughout the society, including people in marriages, relationships, families, veterans, and those with successful careers. Loneliness is described as a social pain mechanism meant to motivate an individual to seek connections, or such as chronic depression. It affects mental and physical health, clinical depression, social affective disorder, and postpartum depression.
So what happens is when you draw yourself from others and the only voice you start to listen to is yourself. That's pretty dangerous because the enemy will plant thoughts in your head because the only voice you're actually hearing and seeking are your own desires and beliefs. And then you're turning into actually taking advice from yourself without connecting to other people.
Yeah, there's like 3 different types of loneliness. There's the situation loneliness that's like environmental factors, or if you experience unpleasant situations. It's a discrepancy of needs, mitigation of people, interpersonal conflicts, like Shanara was talking about, those voices in your head, accidents or disasters. So different things can affect the situation of isolation. It could be developmental. It could be fully biologically. It could be something that's in your personality that you have an inadequacy of. It could be something that didn't properly develop, maybe when you were a child, or maybe even in the fetus. There are significant separations. It could be poverty. Poverty could lead to loneliness, living arrangements, physical and psychological disabilities, as Jenny had mentioned. It could be something that's going internal. Maybe it's just your personality. It could focus on different types of control, mental distress, low self-esteem. Guilt can actually acquire to loneliness. It's a feeling, or poor coping strategies with different situations can contribute to why somebody is lonely.
I believe that, loneliness comes from hurt and pain that turns into isolation. There's 2 ways that people may look at communicating as far as trust issues, where you communicated with the wrong people and then you start to shut down, or you don't know how to express your true feelings to friends and loved ones. So you start to hear yourself and confide in yourself so that you don't go back to other people when you're feeling hurt. As far as like married people or people that are in relationships, they tend to associate themselves with each other and not the world. So they become each other's everything, and then they also become isolated from everyone else, where those are the people that you see like, babe, you're the only one that understands me and no one gets what we're going through, and you're the only person that actually is easy to communicate with. And that's when people that are in relationships tend to isolate themselves from the world. So who deals with loneliness better?
So you have male and female. Each gender deals with their loneliness with a different coping style. So women value close one-on-one relationships. These relationships take more energy to maintain. When some relationships come to an end, women may feel extremely socially disconnected and experience higher levels of loneliness. Where men tend to thrive with lots of casual relationships, they feel most socially connected and least lonely when they're part of a dense network of friends and family and romantic connections. I also found this really cool information from Psychology Today. When things aren't going well for women, they can experience depression. When men feel down, they often experience anger. They have a different brain function when it comes to processing negative emotions. One emotion in common that they do have is loneliness, and how they cope on it is different. So who's more prone to loneliness, men or women? Could it be that in the culture we live in today, women might be more lonely? Shelley Bors from University of Waterloo states, women may not be the lonelier gender. They may simply be more comfortable admitting their vulnerability towards loneliness. Women are more apt to acknowledge their loneliness than men because of the negative consequence of admitting loneliness are less for women than for a man. Let's talk about machismo and pride. Social habits can speculate women tend to be more socially minded than men and may maintain more close friendships outside of a primary romantic relationship. Because they generally focus on relationship more than men do, when their relationship goes sour in women, they may fall more easily into loneliness. And it happens with women across all ages. Lifestyles report higher levels of loneliness than men do, except in one subset of people, and that's single people. Single men vastly outweigh single women.
Well, let's back up. What is machismo?
Machismo is like masculinity.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And that happens, and that kind of happens a lot, especially in the Spanish culture, when men, they're very prideful, very stubborn, and men like that, especially in the Spanish culture, they're not gonna admit that they're lonely. So I can totally get what Kate said. So because I see it a lot, you see that they're single, and then they're going and they have different women. Believe me, I've seen it with my own eyes, But, also me being a woman, we get lonely, but we're not as, we always find other things to do. We have children, we're always more proactive and productive. But men, for some reason, but from what I've seen, especially now, they actually go a lot more for casual, because that's why you always see men with different women.
Right, nothing that's too intimate.
Yeah.
That's just one person and one person, or if they do, they go to this total extreme that Shanair was mentioning, where they isolate themselves, that it's just them.
Mm-hmm. I think loneliness has increased because of texting and social media. We have changed with communicating to others drastically. I witnessed being at my friend's house, and she's cooking dinner, and instead of her just going upstairs and telling the kids that dinner's done, she texts her son to let him know that dinner was done. So I think that we have decreased communicating with people and focused more on our phones and what's going on with everybody else, and our relationship between two people have changed. I see when people, I waitress part-time, so I'll be getting drink orders, and I see people on a date or just hanging out with their significant other, and they're both on their phones, not actually communicating to each other. They're both looking, either watching TV on their phones or playing games or seeing what everybody else is doing on social media.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on that. I think what happens is I know what happens is intimacy is lost. So what you're telling the person you're sitting across from is that whatever's entertaining them on that device, the phone, tablet, is more important than building a quality relationship. And that's how you can be in an environment with a whole bunch of people, friends, family, spouses, and still feel alone. When you spend too much time on social media, it can be very damaging. Social media is frequently about appearances and perception. Let's talk about Instagram. You got to get the right angle and you got to get it with the right filter. If we are already feeling a little lonely or isolated on the inside, it's easy just to scroll and waste an hour of your life on these social media platforms. It's easy to believe that everyone is having fun without us. Studies show that the more lonely a person is, the more time they're likely to spend on social media. Social media gives us a sense that we're with a ton of other people. We have tons of friends, tons of people we follow. But because we're not gaining anything from a face-to-face interaction or actively experiencing their lives with them, it contributes to the sense that we're feeling isolated in a big group. We are a social species, which requires safe and secure social surroundings.
All right. It is said as infants, people experience loneliness the first time when they're babies, when they are left alone, because it could be where the mother is doing something and leaves the baby in the one room and there's no one in the room with them, so that's when they start crying and hollering, and the mother is still probably trying to get something done in the other room. So that's how loneliness comes in that equation, because the child is being left alone, you know.
Yeah, like infants, they can sense when the parent is not in the room. They can smell when the parent's not in the surroundings, because say like if you're babysitting an infant and their mother leaves, what does the infant normally do? Cry, or if you're holding them for a long period of time and the mother goes to the bathroom. They can sense and they can feel when the mother is not in their presence.
That is so true, because how many of us women can experience dropping a child off at daycare and then running the opposite direction as they are screaming? They have a separation and it's nurturing. There's studies, and you can research it, and I didn't research it before I came here, about orphanages in other countries and how they have experience with having lack in developing later on in life, other relationships that are healthy and close and more intimate, because they didn't have that intimacy when they were lying in the crib.
Well, I also, from experience, as us being mothers, my daughter, when she was little, we have this thing where I had to the smell of, like Shanera said, like they know, like I had to sometimes take my shirt off and put it on the crib with my daughter, so that way she would know that she wasn't alone. Because when they're alone, they're fussy, screaming, and like Kate says, that separation and anxiety. So that's what I had to do with my child, is make sure that so she didn't feel alone, so I can go do what I need to do. Was put, your smell is what really attracts it as well.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting that you
I didn't think about that. That's pretty.
That's a good
that's
strategy.
Dope. Yeah.
As humans, we just crave this closeness. That's why another reason we can feel like we're in a room of people and still feel lonely is because we just crave being around people. Unless you have close relationships, you feel unfulfilled. Distance between yourself and an acquaintance can heighten how isolated you feel, as it may make you feel more misunderstood or separated than to begin with.
Okay, it also can be seen as a social phenomenon. It can be spread like a disease. When one feels lonely in a group, the feeling can spread, increasing everyone's risk for feeling lonely. I can kind of relate to that, where I've been in a group and maybe it's because I felt like misunderstood, disconnected, and I felt like they were talking about something, and then I'm sitting there like, okay, I really don't get this, or I don't understand. Maybe it's not that maybe what they're talking about isn't because that I don't understand it. It's more like I want to be in that conversation, but I have no idea what, I don't understand it. So when you're sitting there and you're feeling alone because you're feeling rejected, you're feeling where you got no common interest with them, so you just isolate yourself.
I agree, and I felt like that before as well. Like, don't get me wrong, I love my Spanish people, but it's been times where I've been with my Spanish friends and they talking all this Spanish, and I'm like, I want to encounter, but I don't speak all that good of Spanish. I barely speak English good. So it's times where I'm like feeling lonely, and there's conversations where it's easier for them to communicate speaking a different language because they don't know how to interpret it, the English portion. So I've caught myself times when hanging out with, the Latino friends feeling lonely because I didn't speak Spanish.
Or you're on a topic that like you can't relate. Or what about the other spectrum? What about people who you're sitting around and they're talking about something and it's a topic you don't want to talk about? You just have your guard up, right? Mm-hmm. You're not emotionally available and not interested in making new bonds or no new connections or hashtag no new friends.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Or what about just being an introvert? Introverts they can have situations where socializing can be exhausting, especially with big groups of people or environments. Maybe they just want that one-on-one experience, and if they're in a huge crowd of people, they're quiet, they're to themselves, they're observing, they don't know how to process, or maybe they just don't want to because it's not part of their personality. Where there is a lot of networking, it can make them feel almost a sense of anxiety. It's overwhelming to make small talk with a lot of people in a big environment.
That's good. Or what about the kids that have parents that are in the Army and get bounced from school to school, and where they have to be forced to meet new friends or be forced to communicate with people, or the kids that are quiet and don't like to be open and speak out to other ones? What about those children that don't know how to communicate with others and they feel themselves being lonely all the time? Or how about an elderly person that has a lot of family and have just been dumped in a nursing home, and again, they have new people that they have to be around and forced to be able to communicate and talk to people that they don't know? They can feel lonely as well.
And believe me, I can relate to that because with me, since I work with the elderly, I see a lot of loneliness. Like, I go in there and I do private duty. So when I go in there, they love when I'm there. And, sometimes their families can't be there to take care of them. So, they bring aides like me, to come in there to take care of the family. Because I'm also there. I'm not only there just to take care of their daily needs. I'm also there to, keep them company so that they don't feel alone. I've had clients where, where they're in bed all day long. I have to do all their care for them. And, I'm the one that, even though they might be sleeping in the bedroom, but I'll sit with them to just make sure that they don't feel that loneliness. And I'll be like, hey, are you okay? So that way they have that connection, because sometimes they crave it, but, they can't move out of the bed. Or there's other ones that are independent. They don't come out of the house. They don't do anything because they isolate themselves because they're so lonely because they don't have their children. Nobody calls them. And sometimes you hear the complaining. And then that makes me feel bad because I'm like, wow, And then as soon as sometimes, I've come into the homes of so many where they're just by me coming in there and seeing me, it brightens up their day because, oh my gosh, I'm so happy you're here. That kind of stuff, when you see that, it breaks your heart because, as them humans, they crave, because it is normal to crave that connection with other humans.
That's true.
Satisfying social relationships are essential for your mental and physical well-being. I agree with that. Chronic loneliness studies have shown that can lead to a higher risk for dying of heart disease, weaker immune systems. It could hurt your sleep patterns.
Okay, for physical symptoms, often accompany emotional gripping. Forgiveness and its close cousin, compassion, are emotions associated with emotional health. Physically, the heart, shoulders, chest, and upper back. You may notice tightness in the upper back between the shoulders, a sunken chest, difficulty taking a deep breath, and deflated on low energy.
That's crazy. In fact, 2014 study from Relate shares that 1 in 10 people feel they don't have a single close friend. And some people can feel lonely even in a group of people because they need more quality relationships. They don't need a higher quantity of them. You can have a lot of friends, but if you don't invest time and energy into them, it's likely you'll continue feeling lonely. Becoming close to a person doesn't mean you're dumping all your problems on them, but that you're developing a connection and forming a bond that is mutually beneficial.
Okay, how do we compromise our beliefs and values when feeling alone?
Wow, there's so many ways as women we compromise our beliefs and values when feeling alone. I believe loneliness can be attributed to internal factors like low self-esteem. People who lack confidence in themselves often believe they are unworthy of attention or regards to other people. So some women tend to, not care and sleep with all types of men because they're feeling a void in their life. Others may do it for attention, too much time on their hand. Those are people that don't have children. It can be also influenced by their thoughts where they're like, I'm bored. How many women do you know entertain men when they're bored? I see women that go on dates for a meal and they're not even interested in the dude. Like, all they want is a free meal. Like, let's be serious. Why are you compromising your values and when you're feeling alone to get a free meal? You don't even see yourself being with that dude, but you're like, oh, he want to take me out on a date, or we about to go to Red Lobster, or he said that we're going to go shopping, but he smokes cigarettes, and you don't even like dudes that smoke cigarettes. Why are you wasting your time?
That's so true. Oh my God, I can't believe you said that because it's so funny. But, I mean, I guess, you have to find out what your intentions are and if they're selfish. One, if you're trying to fit the void within inside of you, fulfilling it, or there's a need that you need. I've known people who have played men just to cut their grass.
Guilty.
Well, not only that, we settle. We just settle. We can see a gorgeous guy, and even though we're lonely, we'd be like, I've seen women be like, oh my gosh, he looks good. I'm lonely. I'm single. You settle to what just looks good and think what you think it looks good, and then you take this guy, you talk to him, and then you take, like Shanira said, women just go on these dates. And it's just temporary pleasure, temporary time. You're compromising your morals and your beliefs and your standards because you're lonely. You just want to fulfill that loneliness for the moment. So what happens when you're happy and smiling and seeking the attention? Then when you go back home, you're going to be lonely again.
Right, I feel you. Eat a meal by yourself or cut your own grass. I don't think there's anything wrong in sharing those moments with people, with friends, but you have to check your heart. What's going on in your heart, and why are you choosing to do the things to do? Is it to use somebody to fill something that's missing within yourself?
Yeah, and then I see women that place too much time on trying to change a man because they're lonely into what they want them to be. As women, we should not be trying to change a man. That's not our job to be teaching a man how to be a man. He should already come correct when you meet a man. As women, we invest so much time onto the what ifs, or, well, maybe if we do this, that, and the third, he'll be the person that I need, just because you're feeling lonely.
Like K. Michelle says, you can't raise a man.
That's good. And let's get detailed. Men try to manipulate the minds of a woman, especially, ladies that are in bad places,
They take full advantage.
They take advantage of that. Men, they're all about the prey. They will see a single parent that's struggling, trying to make ends meet, or just juggling life and stability. And that's when they want to say the things that a woman wants to hear, or a woman compromises her beliefs and values because she's feeling lonely and because she needs some help, or because she doesn't have the finances to get her bills paid, or to buy school clothes for kids, or the littlest things as getting a haircut. Like, are you degrading yourself as a woman to compromise your beliefs of valuing yourself as a woman, to fill the void of being lonely, of getting things done because you're lonely, or because you see an advantage of using a man to give them what they want, but to also get what you want? Men are one-tracked human beings, okay? They most, all right, we ain't gonna go there, but most of the men only want one thing, really. Like, they only want one thing, and if they're not gonna take the time to actually get to know you and build a relationship with you besides having sex, then think about it. They only want one thing.
Yeah, men need to physically connect. Women need to emotionally connect. As a woman, is it possible that you linger around a relationship too long, longer than you should be lingering around, because you want to change him, grown him into that man, or you're thinking that, he's helping me out right now, and can I just put up with that? Should I pick my battles? Well, is it really worth you? Is it worth your dignity? Is it worth your emotion? Are you avoiding feeling lonely, or are you sitting at home and you're really lonely while he's cheating on you down the block?
Yes, and I'm gonna include in that, like, they will allow themselves to get treated wrong and still be lonely and still want to be treated that way, because they don't want to be lonely, so they're allowed to be treated the wrong way.
That's good. I have a quote by Montel J. He says, "Don't exchange internal blessings for temporary gratification."
That's good, but I have something that boggles my mind is, like, women have to know. You have to know that there's something dysfunctional that's keeping you around. It's either something internally is going on, or maybe you're in a hurricane and you can't see all the damage that's happening and you need a friend to be like, check you. Like, there's something that happens that allows us to continue to be treated like this, or to continue to seek loneliness, to fill this void. Like, just don't be going and texting your old booze just to entertain time, and don't find yourself lost on social media that you're losing ground for doing something more productive.
And pay attention to the music that you listen to, because some of the music can trigger those past thoughts that you had about someone else, or even television shows that you're watching. It's triggering negative thoughts in your head to make you feel as though that you need a man to be fulfilled when you're feeling lonely.
Yeah, I agree. Just like, like we're talking about, you got to be productive. You have to be proactive in the things that you do, not for yourself. Work on yourself. Like, like Kate says, like, you can be damaged. It's something inner, and it can be mentally something that is like stuck in your mind. But you have to, like, do things for yourself, things that you like. Go to the gym, make a goal. Have friends that be like, when you are in that moments where you feel lonely, that, hey, I want to text this dude, or I want to go do this. Have them friends like that, that you can call on. And believe me, we women especially have at least one or two friends that'll be like, nope, don't do that. Go to the movies, take a walk. Especially if you're a mother, spend more time with your kids. Get off the phone. Get off. We crave for that. We crave for humans. I get that, but there's more out there to do than just to. There's so much to do. You just gotta look for it.
Yeah, you gotta invest in yourself. And if you have just moved on from a relationship and you're like, man, I used to do that with my boo, I used to love going to the movies, then find another friend to go to the movies. Don't hit up the boo and be like, oh, did you want to do this? Go to the movies just one last time as friends. Like, stay away. Everything that's in the past, it's in the past for a reason. You don't need to dig up a grave.
Yeah, Jenny, you made a good point about spending time, for those mothers, spending time with your children. It never surprises me how much I learn in building a relationship with my son. Like, he is so inquisitive, and if I didn't take the time to just put my phone down and have date nights with him, or tell him to get off of that game of playing Fortnite and spend some time with your mama, I would just I wouldn't know him. And that's what I lacked in my home when I was growing up. I lacked a relationship. So I know there's times where people may feel lonely because they don't know how to connect with people because they didn't have that connection at home. You have to break the chain. You have to break the cycle of not being able to communicate with your friends and your family, and not make it only be a intimate relationship with the other sex. You have to be able to communicate with women. I know as women, we can be catty and women can come with drama, but as women, we should be able to communicate with other women. We should be able to find something as little as our menstrual cycles to be able to start a conversation with women, because you may be surprised by the things that you have in common with other women if you don't actually initiate a conversation or try to take the time to build a relationship with people. You will never know.
And I agree because I lack that also in my household, and I am the one that I'm very social. Yeah, I do get lonely because I'm human, and I crave that. But with me personally, I like communication. I like talking. To me, that is that helps with me not being lonely, where I crave for communication because I lack that. I didn't have that as a child where I can sit there and talk to my mother, especially being the oldest out of 9 kids, and I always sought it out everywhere else, even at my job with coworkers, people that I go to church with, because honestly, if you don't make conversation with someone, you'll never know that, oh, well, I don't think they can relate. Honestly, a lot of people will really relate to you and understand you more than you know.
Yeah, have a sense of curiosity. Get to know someone who's not like you, who has experienced a life different from you. I love meeting new people and knowing, what they're passionate about, what makes their heart tick, what's their purpose in life. Just be curious.
Yeah, don't run back to the old things, Like Kate said, try some new things. Life experiences are a way of growing, a way of being able to interact and stopping the void of feeling lonely.
So, ladies, tell me how pride can overtake your true feelings and forgiveness when expressing your feelings to others.
I think sometimes when we mess up, it's harder to actually come clean to those that we love and expect us to. They expect us that that we know better. We live in a society where the world judges us, and they're not transparent. They're not transparent on, us being human, that we can make mistakes, and the best way to set yourself from pride is being able to express the things that you've done or something that you're holding deep down inside. That is basically the only way that you can set yourself free for when you're feeling prideful.
Okay, your pride can hold you back. It will cause you to shut others out and encourage you to shy away from loved ones. It can keep you from seeking help, and it coats a lot of your feelings. You can even lie instead of being honest about what is really going on in your head. But you also got to understand that you are human. But don't allow your pride to get in the way of anything, of trying to trying to express your feelings.
Yeah, I believe that, pride shows a lack of trust in God, against what you're actually called to do and your values and who you're called to be. You're going against the truth and you're moving out of your own character and control. And when you don't place your trust in Him, you isolate yourself from the truth, and you're actually depending on yourself for gratification or self-awareness, where it's leaving you feeling that your opinion or your truth in things is better than what anyone else is telling you. I think when people are prideful, they don't like to admit when they need something. They feel as though admitting that they need help is a form of weakness, so they don't like to ask other people. When people need to communicate with other people, you have to be able to build those relationships with others. And it's okay to need someone else to help you out in things, Pride is a form of destruction. And when you feel as though you don't need anyone else, it can eliminate community, and it can bring in assumptions. Assumptions that are not true of what people think about you. So try to examine yourself, be aware of who you are as a person, and, be accountable. Be accountable for when you're feeling lonely, and be able to humble yourself and speak to someone. You have to have someone in your life that you can be able to express when you're going through something. And you also have to be able to know that you need people. You need people to be able to criticize you when you're doing something wrong as well. Correction is good. It's a part of growing into your maturity, and it shows transparency as well. So when you have pride and you don't have someone that can correct you, pride will grow, and that's when it brings you back into self-destruction. And let's also not forget about revenge. That's a part of pride as well. In today's society, we have people that say, oh, I just had a petty moment, or I'm going to get you back, or karma's a you-know-what. As an adult, you should not be arguing and fighting with people because you want to get revenge. I think that's a part of having pride as well. We tend to get jealous of other people's success, and when you're scrolling down on your phone about how many likes someone has on a picture, or the accomplishments someone else has, jealousy is a part of pride. Then you try to isolate yourself. You don't want to see what everyone else is doing. So instead of being able to see someone accomplishing other things, you shut down and you don't want to look at it anymore, and you go into isolation where you're feeling lonely. And the only way to not see everyone else's accomplishments or success is when you shut down.
And I agree with that. Pride can also put a stronghold on your happiness. It can put a stronghold on so much things in your life. It can prevent you from getting close to others, and just everything in general around you, in your home, your job. Pride is such it gets to a point where you become so selfish, and that's, you isolate yourself. So again, it can be such a stronghold, and don't allow that to become a stronghold on your happiness.
Yeah, your feelings shouldn't determine who you are. Who you are should determine your feelings. So I definitely agree with what you said in regards to that.
Like, exactly. And it happens more often, because I've seen it, where a person becomes so prideful because, like Shanara, like you said, somebody, you correcting them, or they feel some type of way and they don't want to talk to that person, so they isolate themselves from a certain person that actually cares about them, and like, hey, I'm correcting you, that, but they become a prideful, and then that's when all you end up stirring up, getting all these other feelings involved. So, but then at the same time, you're still yearning that, that human connection, but you're being prideful at the same time and pushing yourself away from everybody. Also, start asking for help. Find someone that you can trust, or challenge yourself, because I know that there are times where we want to get out of these feelings that we are having. Be vulnerable. Expose yourself to someone that you can trust and look for that help. Take accountability on how you feel, and you can't allow yourself to stay like that forever. So again, don't allow your pride or whatever you're feeling, your loneliness, to allow you, because it could become a stronghold into your happiness.
Yeah, you know, fix your eyes not on what is seen, but what is unseen. Because what you've seen is more than likely temporary, but what is unseen is more internal. So, ladies, I hope you enjoyed today's topic. I have a challenge for you. Think of a time where you felt lonely, or you felt the need that you felt disconnected, and let us know how you coped with that, or how you handled the situation or got out of the situation when you were feeling lonely. So, as always, I like to end with a quote. And the quote that I have for today is, "Never allow loneliness to drive you back into the arms of someone you know you don't belong with." So, ladies,
Stay uncommon.
Uncommon.